Good evening, everyone. It's an honor to be here tonight. Albeit we're treating a difficult topic today, which is inflation, something that is has kind of affected everyone really in recent times, and it is not something that is synonymous to Nigeria alone. It's actually happening like all over the world. So I didn't do a formal presentation because I wanted to be as informal as possible because it's something that is kind of like affecting all of us at the moment. So let's just talk through it, have a discussion, and hopefully people will be able to take away tips that can kind of help them and mitigate, well, help them decrease the impact that inflation is kind of having on our everyday life. So the first thing I suppose is to define what inflation is. And in simple terms, inflation is basically that whole steep increase in prices or an increase or a decrease in how much that the money that you have in your hand is can actually buy you things when you go out to shop or when you go to the market, basically. So what we're saying in layman's term is I have 1,000 naira last month. I was able to buy, let's say, a bag of rice. But this month, going into the market, 1,000 naira is not even going to get me a cup of rice, which is what we see that is happening around the world. And in layman's terms, that's what inflation actually means. It just means that prices are increasing so bad, and then the value of the money in your hands is actually kind of like decreasing, basically. So when we bring it close to home, let's bring it to Nigeria. Inflation has kind of hit us in a lot of like things that become really, really like expensive. And we all know that. I think if you're following the economy page, you're just seeing different social media ads around last year. This is what 10,000 naira was able to get me. This year, this is what 10,000 naira was able to get me. And every single day, it just seems like it's getting worse. Now, one of the points before we actually go into tips on how we can actually do things that would help us to reduce the impact of inflation is we need to bear in mind that year on year, inflation has gotten worse in Nigeria. So sometimes when we talk to people about things that they can do in order to increase their income or in order to do some certain things that might help them soften the blow of inflation when they get there, people make excuses as to why they can't do these things. But the truth about it is because Nigeria has gotten continuously worse. I know we are all hoping and praying that things get better. I think it's about time that we all start planning for the future. And even if you live in the Western world as well, inflation has hit. So people in the Western world see inflation in different ways. Prices of houses, it becomes a lot more expensive to actually buy houses. It becomes a lot more expensive to actually borrow money. So what do I mean by it becomes more expensive to actually borrow money? It means that the interest rate that the banks are offering you to borrow money becomes higher, basically. So if last year you could have borrowed, let's say, 1,000, and the interest rate might have been like maybe 2%, when it comes to this year, because of inflation, it will be, maybe they might increase it to 2.5% because of inflation, basically. So basically, it becomes more expensive for you to also borrow money when inflation hits. And the downside of that is sometimes in an inflation, when inflation is happening, you actually get less for the money that you're actually trying to save or invest. But let's just park that. So having defined inflation, and you can put your questions in the chat box as I go along, what are the things that we can do on a daily basis that can help us mitigate the impact or the negative impact of inflation in our lives? And I'll just kind of give you guys a few examples around things that have that has helped me. So I always like to put in everything that I do in life, to be honest, I always like to put my the plans that I come up with into what I can do in the short term, what I can do in the medium term, and what I can kind of do like a long-term plan. So in the short term, day to day, one of the things that people can do, one of the things that I normally would do is I notice that the shops, grocery shops, things are cheaper when you get to the second week of the month and the third week of the month. They normally would run discount. Why? Because the last week of the month, which is kind of like the end of the month, a lot of people get paid monthly. And then obviously, I think psychologically, they think that, okay, if you get paid at the end of the month, you will still have money going into the first week of the month. But the second week of the month, a lot of people begin to go broke. basically. So what happens is less people might go into the shop. So in order to get people through the doors, what they do is they offer discounts within that second week and third week. Now they're offering discounts to attract a lot more people into the shop, but they're also hoping that because a lot less people have less money, not a lot of people will be taking on those discounts. So even though they're offering discounts to attract people in the shop, they're also trying to control the amount of people that come into the shops to actually buy at a discounted price. So one of the things that we started doing in my house is we don't shop at the end of the month. We don't shop the first week in the month. We shop in the second and third week of the month, especially because I have 3 children. I have 2 growing boys. These ones eat as if food is going out of them, as is going out of circulation. So basically, we started shopping that way, and by doing that, we were able to buy things cheaper. We were also able to like save a little bit of money. One of the things I also used to do was also with my children's clothing is at the end of summer, a lot of shops would be trying to get rid of summer stock. So summer stock would go on sale. So what I would do is I would buy for this summer against next summer because they're cheaper. So basically I buy out of season because things are cheaper out of season. I mean, for me, obviously, with the mother with 3 children and I have growing children, which means that if I buy them a pair of shoes today, there's a guarantee that by in the next 3 to 6 months that it will not fit them. I have to buy another one. So I had to start shopping smartly. So one of the things that you can kind of do is to begin to look at your shopping patterns and say, okay, let me look at the trends in the market. Off season, on season, are things cheaper? In a place like Nigeria, sometimes people tell me that, but they never really do this sales, or they never do this kind of discounts. One of the things that you can take advantage of is, now the cooperative is a very good example where you can kind of come together and bulk buy together, because a lot of times when you bulk buy, you can actually get discounts. So what am I saying? I remember a friend used to work for a company in Nigeria and they had a cooperative. So what they used to do is that cooperative used to go out and buy directly from the wholesalers or buy directly from the distributors items that they kind of need. So it was cheaper for them to buy it for their employees. And that means that it was the employees were actually getting it at a cheaper price. Now, a lot of us belong to like mosques, churches, different societies. Is the thing that people can kind of come together as a group and kind of like bulk buy. So those are like some of the few things that you can kind of do like in the short term, especially because groceries is one of the things that has become really, really, really expensive, and feeding has become really, really expensive for a lot of families, to be honest. So how can we look at ways that we can kind of save on grocery shopping? So bulk shopping to actually attract discounting, coming together with friends and family so that you guys are buying as bulk so that you guys can get it at a discounted price. A friend of mine in the States used to tell me that they used to do meat sharing. So rather than go and buy meat from like the butcher and the supermarkets where it would be really expensive, they used to go into the farms to buy meat. But because it would be too much for one family, 4 or 5 families would kind of come together and buy a cow and then slaughter it. And it was just cheaper for them. And it also means that they can stock it in their freezer and they had a lot more. So basically those are kind of some of the few things that you can kind of do like in the short term. Obviously in the medium term, what I always say to people is that because inflation doesn't stop, you kind of have to look for ways to kind of like increase your revenues. What are the things that you can do to also increase your earning power? Because cost cutting is one thing. You can't always cost cut. So what are the other things that I can do in order to increase my revenue so that as inflation rises, my earning is also increasing in line with revenue? I think my 15 minutes is about up. So I'll just hand you over to Tineke to take over from there.
Okay, thank you so much, Dolapo, for the opportunity to come up now. And just to buttress on what Dolapo has said, the purpose of inflation, I wouldn't say it has any purpose actually, but it's happening. And it's something that we cannot restrict or we cannot adjust. But we can do something about it ourselves. Because it's a form of economic term that is used to measure the increase in prices of goods and services, as well as a decrease in the value of money you have as your purchasing power for the goods and services you want to purchase. So at the moment, inflation is everywhere in the world. It's not only in Nigeria, but it is It's been in Nigeria for the past 5 years, and it's just escalating. According to the Consumer Price Index in the last few months, it's over 18% at the moment, compared to even some of the sub-Saharan African nations, talk less of other nations of the world. So this is a thing that has come to stay, and it has come to this level basically based on some of the things that the government have done, the decisions they've taken, such as devaluing the naira, removing subsidy. These are the things that have made the inflation to be very, very high in the nation of Nigeria compared to other nations. But the reason why we are here tonight is for us to be able to see how we can mitigate this risk around inflation regarding our life as a professional person or as a businesswoman, because anything that happens negatively in any part of the world affects women and children intensely than the other gender. So we want to look at a way whereby we can be able to, hedge this inflation. And the LACPA have given us some of the things we have to do. But first thing I want us to do is for us to, accept that there's inflation. If you don't accept that this is happening, then you may not be able to have a kind of mindset on how to work around it. You have to accept it immediately and look at ways of evolving and adapting. Adaptation is the word I want to use. You just have to adapt because there's nothing you can do. But if you know that, okay, this is happening, what can I do and how can I adapt? And that's one of the ways the LACPA is saying is for you to be able to make your little money go far. Make the little money you have, let it go far. And letting it go far is to be able to write out what I called your financial goals. It is very, very important to put pen to paper at this time. If you've not been used to writing out your goals, it is important to do that at the moment. When you write out your financial goals, what are my basic needs? What do I need to do? What do I want to have? When you are able to write this out in short term, in medium term, and in long term, then you will be able to plan towards it. And one strategy that is very important is called budgeting. If you have not been budgeting, this is the time to start budgeting. Budgeting is a form of you allocating certain amount to different areas of your life at a certain period of time. So let's say for a week, you've been able to know, okay, in every month, this is how much we spend on food. For this next week, how much are we going to spend? Depending on the money I have. So when you are able to budget, you look out for ways to reduce your spending. And which one of the ways is called buying in bulk. Get your friends together. And this is what I do myself. Get your friends together, look at if you can buy like a meat together and share it, or a basket of tomatoes, because this would be much more cheaper rather than you buying it in the small bowl, that you get in the market. So that is one of the most important ways. When you have budget, okay, this is the amount I'm going to spend on food, and I want this money to go as far as possible, then you will be able to do that. And the next thing you have to do is for you to, turn these challenges to opportunity. This is a challenging time, but turn it to opportunity. And one of the ways of turning it to opportunity is to start to have multiple streams of income. If you're only a salary earner or you are just an entrepreneur, this is time for you to look at yourself, reflect, look at knowledge, gifts, ideas that you can turn to money making as well in order to increase your income. Because there's nothing you can really do about the income you have at the moment, but you can actually expand and increase your income. So if you're, let's say you're only good at writing, you might be an accountant, but you have the gift of writing. Why not start being a guest blogger in a website? Recently, a lady reached out to me that, look, I want to guest blog on your website. She saw my website and she just, and I was obliged. I said, why not? So you can look at the things that you can do that can help you to increase your income at this moment as a woman. I know it's quite difficult, especially when you're working, you're a corporate professional. But the most important thing is yourself and your family. You see that job that you have, God forbid, if anything happens tomorrow, you will be replaced immediately. So create time for yourself. Create time to increase your own income through the things that you can do other than the money you get from your workplace. Another point I have here, especially for those that are into business, even for those that are not into business, try to earn in foreign currency. Try to earn in foreign currency. Nigeria Naira is very, very bad at the moment. And there are so many ways of earning in foreign currency, especially for those in business. Look at ways of making sure you sell to people outside Nigeria so that they can pay you in foreign currency. And by the time you convert that, that will be a lot of money compared to selling within Nigeria. That's an option that I think everybody can use, which can help you to, at most, work around this inflation period that we are in. And also, if you have money in the bank as savings, because we are all encouraged to save, which is very, very good. But when it comes to inflation period, your money in the bank, it's going to be worth nothing at the end of the day. So I will encourage that you use what we call inflation hedging. Inflation hedging is a form of investment that you will put your money into that, will not devalue the investment, rather increase your income, or at worst, stay as it is. So, and two major ones that I know, which I've practiced, is investing in gold and real estate. You don't have to have all the money in the world to invest in this. I'm sure economy have opportunities of helping you to get involved with, group buying, that you can invest in, like real estate for renting and things like that. So look at ways of doing this rather than keeping your money in the bank and then things begin to happen and the value of your money is reduced day in, day out. So use what we call inflation hedging by investing in real estate. There's so many other investments, but the one I am sure of that I've tried that I think can work for you, which, by the way, you can do your research as well, is real estate and gold. So that instead of you just leaving your money in the bank like that, and it's being devalued every day, at least it's going to appreciate when the time comes. Okay. Also, you can also invest in some stock markets, ETFs, mutual funds, but these are quite on the higher side, which I will expect you to get professional advice before you invest in those areas. Now, as a woman, this I tell everyone, okay? For you as a person to increase your income, you have to upskill yourself. And believe me, we are talking to ourselves as women here, and this is what I have gone through. Sometimes if you don't upskill, you may not be able to get that promotion at work that can help you to get higher pay, to at least have some fund of money that you can use to buy the things you need at the time you need it. So look at the ways of upskilling so that you can compete with other positions that you need in order to get your promotion as much as possible. Also, beating inflation, it's a very, very important tool that you can use. sort out yourself at this period in time. And this tool is what I call beating inflation, in such a way that you as a person, you have been able to identify every area of your life and look at the ways of reducing your spending. This might be very difficult, but there are ways of reducing your spending. I'm sorry to say, most of us, we are still into Ashwebi. We are still into, oh, it's my friend that is doing this. Yes, it's good to support one another, but there are times that you cannot afford it. And don't let anybody coerce you. This is what I came to understand recently myself, because just as I said earlier on, I should have been in the entertainment industry. I love all this buying Ashwebi, supporting people. But we're in inflation. Inflation is everywhere in the world. So there are some things that we have to cut away. There's some kind of, yes, we still need to live our life, enjoy our life, but there's some kind of spending that we have to look at and reduce as much as possible, so that we can still have a form of buying power to be able to buy the things we need. A basket of tomato that used to be, let's say, 2,000 is around 8,000, 10,000 Naira. Okay, so, and if you don't have extra income, if your salary is not increased you have to cut out some things. We have to look at ways of cutting out some expenses that is affecting us, that we know we can cut out, but maybe because we are addicted to it. I have a friend, well, it's part of our plan, you know, she has a plan every weekend, she has to go out clubbing. She has put that in her budget. But it gets to a time that she realized that, look, I don't need this. I can cut it out once in a month instead of every weekend, so that I can have money to buy more things that are necessity, to pay my rent, to pay my bills, rather than, you know, being caught up in the inflation things. And that's why you see that some people, it looks as if the inflation is not affecting them. They are not complaining. It's not that it's not affecting them, but they've been able to hedge it and be able to look at what they can do in order to get themselves at the right place they're supposed to be. So these are the things I want us to take away with us today. And that's why I'm not doing any form of presentation or slides. I want us to talk heart to heart. And at this moment, I think the floor is going to be open for questions for myself and Dolapo. Thank you for listening to me.
Guys, did you believe that all those were? Please confirm that you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
Yes, we can. Hi, Godwin. Have we lost Godwin?
Please confirm that you can hear me.
Yes, you can.
Yes, we can hear you.
Awesome.
Yeah, you keep breaking though.
Thank you, Delacqua. Thank you, Tinuke. I think someone is. Yeah, sorry, my internet connection is awesome tonight. Okay, so thank you for the presentations. I think the first thing that struck me was when you both said that if you like Japa from here to Canada, inflation is still waiting for you there. So I literally put my hand on my head at that point. I was like, okay, we are not coming here to joke. So thank you once again. I hope you can still hear me. My
yes.
Okay, great, thank you. So if anyone has any question, you can drop it in the chat box, or you use the hand raise icon and you'll be called live to ask your question. But whilst we wait for that, I'll just start off with some of the questions that I've noted down in the course of your presentations. So I think summarizing, you had mentioned that inflation in Nigeria has been around for a while and it will keep getting worse. And it just got me thinking, if it's going to keep getting worse, how then do we even position ourselves? So I'll leave with some of the things that you shared. I think for Dolapo, you had mentioned that planning is very important. Planning is very important, but we know that not everyone really understands the process of planning, and the way you broke it down, short term, medium term, long term, right? Not everyone understands that process. So for me, two questions is, one, where do they start from in even planning, so that it's not, because I'll use myself again as an example. Sometimes there's how you want to do something, you know you should do it, but then you just don't know where to start from and it becomes overwhelming, right? So it's where do they start from? And then secondly, are there places they can go to for help? And I think this, sorry, the second part is for those without even any knowledge, right? So is there places they can go to help them with planning? And even for those who have an idea but don't even know how to go about it and seeming overwhelming, where do they start from in the short term?
So I'll take it from the way I say to my 11-year-old daughter when she started writing out, when she started planning, basically. So you can plan with just a pen and a paper, to be honest. And one of the things that I used to do when I was much younger, because I find myself away from home at a very young age, and that means I had to be responsible for my rent, for my feeding and everything, and I had a part-time job. So I knew how much I was going to get paid monthly in my part-time job. So what I used to do then was, this was even before I understood what budgeting was, because I did engineering as a first degree and not necessarily finance, really. So I used to put on the paper, I would say my travel is going to cost me £60 a month on the student travel card. Was £60. I was living in the UK at the time. And I would say, oh, my rent was £250, right? So that was already £310. And I was like, oh, my electricity was £10 a week. So that was £40. So I used to write it down in like at the back of a notebook. So I just write all my expenses. And then my part-time job, I was working 24 hours. 24 hours a week. So at the end of the month, I used to be like, okay, you only get paid £600 after tax, right? So I used to do how much I get paid less, how much I needed to spend every single month, right? And I used to be like, oh my God, at the end of the month, sometimes I'll be left with like £5, sometimes I'll be left with like £10. So I knew that, madam, in a month, you only had like £40 or £50 to do your grocery shopping, right? So because I knew that I only had, because it was important for me to have a roof over my head. It was important for me to be able to travel from school and then to work. It was important for me to have light because I needed to get my assignments done. There were some things that were more important. At that particular point, all those things were more important to me than eating. So I used to write that down, okay, I only have £40 or £50 to kind of eat that month, right? And then what I used to do was I used to go into the cheapest supermarket that ever existed in London at the time. And I would plan out my shopping. So some things are not important to me. Things like fish, meat. Who are you? Please, they're not looking for you there. So I used to buy packs of like 500 grams rice. I used to buy eggs. I used to buy baked beans, right? I used to buy like what we call plum tomato. So I basically learned to plan that way. And I know that if for any reason in a month, I had to miss 1 or 2 days at work, just because maybe I had assignments or I had tests and stuff like that, I need to add up. You're already eating into the amount of money that you have to eat. So believe you me, I had to so when it comes to planning, right, especially when it comes to financial planning, and I know economy actually has, they used to have a budgeting spreadsheet on the economy app before. I don't know if it's still there, but if you don't even understand how to use Excel, just get a pen and a paper, right? You can list what you spend money on every single month. So that kind of gives you like an idea of what you're spending money on every single month. Do you understand? Like there's what we call recurring expenses. These are expenses that you have to pay every single month. So you can kind of write that down, and then you can put your income at the top, and then you need to use a calculator to do, my income that comes in less the amount that I'm kind of spending out, and that gives you an idea if you have anything left at the end of the month. Do you understand? Now that also helps you to begin to see how much you're actually spending on every single item. Now, if you're one of those that use so one of the things that I started doing a lot is I use my bank card a lot to do all my transactions, because when I wanted to get into this whole financial planning thing for myself, using my bank card was very, very important to me. So that means at the end of every month, I can look at my bank statement and analyze what I spent on each item. Like I'm not forgetting because I'm not using cash. I'm actually using my bank card. So it gives me an idea of what I've spent in what shop and what I actually spent my money on. So sometimes that's also another place to actually start. How do you spend your money? If you're spending cash, a lot of times you can't keep track, because if you're like me, once I get a receipt, it doesn't matter how important that receipt is, I throw it in the bin because I hate seeing paper around. But in using my bank card, when my bank statement comes, I'm able to see exactly what I'm spending my money on. So for those that are not familiar with planning, two of the things that they can do is, one, maybe begin to use their card more often or do bank transfers more often, so it shows up on the bank statement what they're spending their money on. So at the end of the month, they can see what they spend their money on. Or the other thing is bring out a pen and paper. You don't necessarily have to learn how to use Excel, but Economy used to have that budgeting spreadsheet, and it would be good if it can come back up as something that is on the app, so it can kind of be shared with people, basically.
Awesome. Thank you, Dalakwa. I think the spreadsheet is still up. You can go to the Economy option, and then you can download it, and it would help you. It's a budget tracker also. Yes. Thank you, Sisi Kemi. It's still up there. So go to Follow Economy on Instagram and you find it. Your response ties into what Atinuke had said, and also wanted to ask about it, which is the financial goals, setting financial goals. I think you've broken that down also in the planning response you just gave. There is a hand up, but before we take the hand, I just want to ask one more question. I'll direct this at Atinuke. You had mentioned multiple streams of income, and I know tonight one of the things we want to do is help women have a kind of a playbook, a guide, right, that they can explore. And you had mentioned multiple streams of income, and I know for quite a number of women, especially for Nigerian women, they hear about multiple streams of income. They like the idea, but don't know how to go about it, and see that this is something you also do, coaching women, guiding them. So could you share some of the things that women can do for a start? Some of the things they have around them now that they can even start with in generating these multiple streams of income, getting additional sources of income, things around them that they can start with before even starting to move up the ladder.
Thank you very much. Actually, as a person, everybody's talented, everybody's gifted, everybody has one thing or the other in them that other people don't have. And that's why I always said the first thing to do is to look inward. Look at what you're gifted at. It can just be even speaking. And through speaking, you can start improving yourself. And before you know it, you carve a niche for yourself, and then you start getting income from it. Because if you are not starting with yourself, with what you know, with the passion that you have, it can get to a time that you become, very tired easily, and just forget about the purpose of why you want to create that multiple streams of income. Your reason, it's a drive. Why do I need this money? Why? So inflation is there. I can't afford enough for myself. I need more money. Okay, so what can I do? Some of us, we are good at even ordinary plaiting hair when we're in secondary school. But because of the kind of job we are doing now, we've forgotten about it. But you can start. You can start telling your friends, okay, let me do your hair today, do your hair tomorrow at your own leisure time. And before you know it, you can even upgrade to start selling wig or braided hair little by little. But it has to always be something that you have. Because if you don't start with what you have and what you know how to do, it's going to be very difficult. Let me tell you something, there is nothing that is easy in this life, no matter what it is. But because if you have a passion backing it up, if you have a gift, a talent backing it up, it can become a bit easy even when the going goes tough. So that's where I think we should start. And also, the other thing we should do is to look for help. Whatever you want to do, look around you. Look at people that have been doing it. Look at people that can support you, people that can encourage you, people that can be your accountability partner. Because you can get lonely sometimes, especially when you have a job and you are quite busy. But if you have somebody that's already doing it, they can show you, look, I have my own job too, and I'm doing this. Anything. It can be just selling wares. And gradually you see that sometimes it gets to a level that you even leave your job and focus mainly on that and turn that to your full-time business. So that's the 2 tips I will give.
Awesome. Thank you. So I'll go to the hand we have raised. Remember, if you have questions, you can drop them in the chat. If you want to speak live, you can use the hand raise tab. Viv, you can unmute and ask your question.
Good evening, Dolapo. Good evening, Atinuke. Hi, Godwin. Thank you so much for this session. It's very informative and educative. So I think you've forgotten the businesswoman. So as a businesswoman that has a business, and I'm trying to, because inflation is happening to everyone individually and corporately in our little SMEs, how do I manage the company or my little business in or during this inflation? What can I do to help the company stem the tides and navigate this period? So either Dolapo or Atinuke, but I'd like to have a perspective from both of you on how we can fight this.
Okay, I'll start. So it also obviously depends on if you're into product business or services business. And then when it comes to product as well, it depends on the kind of product business that it is. Now, I find out that with products business, depending on the kind of product, so if it's an FMCG product or products that people use all the time, they tend to survive inflation better than, let's say, luxury end products, basically. So if you're an everyday product, because you can pass on the increase in prices to your consumers, sometimes it's easier for you to deal with inflation, albeit you also have to deal with your running cost of your business, which is where you might not be able to necessarily pass on all of the increase in prices. So that might actually affect kind of like your profit margin rating. But you probably have a hedge just because you can pass on the prices, like the increase in prices. So what you hear when you go to the market now, when you ask people, even people that stocked 10 months ago will tell you that, things are expensive, are not expensive. That's the price. Do you understand? So you're able to pass on those prices. Now, when it comes to services, I think it's a lot more tricky. Already during inflation, unless the service is essential, like if you go to the doctors or if you go to the pharmacists and all this kind of, which obviously your life depends on it, and people don't have a choice, even if the doctor goes ahead and increases the prices to account for inflation, which is what you should do as a business owner. You always have to increase your prices to account for the inflation that is going in the market. Now, if you are belonging to that essential services of obvious category, even if you increase your prices, because health is important, people will still pay for it. Transportation costs, everybody knows that petrol has gone up. So if they increase the price of transport, because you have to get to work, you have to get to your business. If you're in logistics, people will probably still pay for it. Now, the problem now becomes that, let's say you are a hairdresser or something like that, and then you increase the price that it takes you to do one hair. People will say, I can go to, so that's where substitution now begins to come in. I can go to the woman on my street. She can do me ordinary plaiting. I don't really have to go to a high-end salon. So that's where, obviously, you begin to see that, okay, your businesses are being affected. So what can you do? Like a human, like a normal person as well, you need to begin to look at what are the costs that I can kind of cut within my business. So if you come to my salon, I used to offer you Chivita juice or more, is to be offering you water now, because what I'm trying to like cut costs. So you have to begin to look at, okay, within my business, what are the excesses? What are the luxury items that I can kind of get rid of? Not because of anything, because I still want to be able to offer quality service to my customers at a particular price. But in order for me to do that, I begin to look at how to reduce my cost. Now, what it also forces you to do, what I found out that what inflation forces business owners to do as well, is to begin to look at their operations and see that how can I make my operations a lot more efficient? So there's efficiencies that are, and that's the whole different other topic, efficiencies that can be achieved within your business processes in order to reduce the cost of actually doing business. So simple things like before you're buying ink for your printer needs electricity, your printer needs ink. That's two costs that is associated to your printer. Going forward, everything is sent digitally by email. Actually, you should be sending everything digitally because the number of trees that we kill when we actually print out paper. So what do? You're saving on paper cost, you're saving on printing cost, you're saving on electricity, you're saving on ink by sending things to people digitally. And now you can sign documents like confidential documents digitally. We all did it during COVID for 2 years. Anyway, if there's anything that COVID taught us is there's so many inefficiencies in a lot of people's businesses, and those things can kind of be cut down. So those are kind of like some of the few tips. I suppose if your products, you can pass on the cost in some places. Your electricity and gas and all that kind of stuff, you might not be able to pass it on, but there's also a way to begin to look at, okay, when we come in the morning, we don't need all the lights to be on. So that will save on your electricity bill. We only need the lights to come on when it is dark and we cannot see. I also practice this in my house because I have 3 children that think that 24/7 the lights need to be on, even when they are sleeping. Or more, I go around, I put off everybody's light. I don't care. If you like, they're afraid of the dark. Say your prayers before you go to bed because they constantly put on the light. And electricity bill has gone up by 25%. You understand? So there are different things that you can do. So the same way you apply it to your life is the same way so what am I saying? You analyze the business. What are the costs? What am I spending money on in my business? What can I do to reduce those costs? What can I do to make better spending decisions within my business? Then begin to look at your revenue. Can I diversify my business? Can I diversify my revenue? Are there other opportunities that are coming up because of inflation, that because my business is already set up in a certain way, I can actually use that business to actually go into another business, basically?
Thank you, Vi, for asking that question. And I believe Dolapo has really discussed all the important information. However, I just want to add collaboration. This is a good time to collaborate with other businesses that can complement your business. So I'm just going to use a very simple analogy that most people know about. When a bread seller collaborates with a bean seller, it makes it easy, and it's somebody that wants to buy bread will always easily see beans and buy it. So for example, somebody that's a hairdresser only for women can bring in a men's barber, so there's avenue for collaboration in order to mitigate around the risk of losing customers or getting out of business at this point in time. And I also mentioned when I was talking earlier on, looking at opportunities of earning in foreign currency, because this is another opportunity at this moment. Just as Dolapo said, look at revenues, opportunity, look at the ways of expanding your business outside your immediate vicinity and locality so that you can be able to gain the support you need to be able to mitigate the inflation you are experiencing. And lastly, look at ways of multiple streams of income through your business. I cannot overemphasize on this. Your business that you are doing at the moment, you can analyze it and look at ways you can even make more money. you may have a premise that you can actually let out within your business premise. So there are things you may be able to do in order to increase your income, thereby being able to have enough buying power that will help you to edge the inflation at the moment. I hope that supports the answers. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Viv.
No, yes, it does. Thank you very much, because sometimes as a business, you're also trying to get in sales. You're looking at advertising, for example, which is a cost you. Yeah, but now the way Dolakwa has explained it, that for the depending on the kind of business you have, you can easily pass that cost to your consumers, and also look for other avenues to cut off income. And I like the collaboration part. So yeah, thank you so much.
And I think on the collaboration part as well, I think one of the things we need to start thinking about of business owners is co-owning spaces. Like the fact that, and I think that's one thing, and it just goes in line with what Tinker was saying about collaboration, really, as in, I don't have to go out and rent a space on my own. If we have complementary businesses or somewhere we can actually rent the same space. So you're cutting down on your rental cost, you're cutting down on your electricity cost, or it's kind of being shared, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Okay, I think I'm back. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dolakwa. Thank you, Tinike, for the responses. Thank you, Viv, for the question also. Unfortunately, we did not miss out on the business owners or entrepreneurs, depending on whichever title they like to be called. So it's almost 9 p.m. and we're wrapping up now. I was supposed to release a poll, but for some strange reason, it's not allowing me to launch the poll, and in trying to rectify it, it will mean disconnecting the conversation, the session we are on. So we'll just do our poll verbally. So just like when we started, I want you to drop in the chat how you are feeling right now. So after everything that we've heard tonight from both Atinuke and Dolapo, how are you feeling right now? Do you feel like, yes, I'm well equipped? And while we are doing that, so I want to see the emojis coming in. Looking at what we have in the chat already, Elo was saying, wow, thank you, Dolapo. That was so inspiring and explicit. Thank you. Lerato was smiling at the bread and beans partnership. Always, yes, it always works. So let me see your emojis. How are you feeling right now? And so I think while Tinke was speaking, she made mention of not leaving your money in the bank. And that is why our savings product as economy was launched, right? So our interest rate is well above what your conventional bank offers to you. So I encourage you to go on to dashboard.economy.com and sign up today so that you can start to save with us. Even if you want to get into real estate, you need to have at least cash to start with. So you can save with us. You could either use our vault products, local funds for a while, or plans. She also spoke about bulk buying. So you could use our plans, and we have all different offerings. Once you get onto the dashboard, our savings products, you would see different options there. So dashboard.economy.com to get started. Okay, let me see what we have. boss lady with some fire emojis. I hope that is what it means. All I know is fire. You are either blazing hot or you are smoking.
Those are
Not
fantastic.
smoking. Yeah, thank you, Shil. Mujibola says very simple and workable solutions that bring about good outcomes. Thank you. Shemali says, thank you, Dollar One Atinuke. Boss lady, that budgeting thing has been my toxic trait. Oh, how do I put it? And they say my heart goes out to you, but not really. So if you go on our Instagram and do at economy, you'll find a simple budget tracker to get you started. If you're still having issues, you can send us an email, info@economy.com, and we'll take it up from there. We'll see how we can help you. We're here to help members of our community to thrive. Insightful session. Tinuke says it's a pleasure to be here today. Yes, thank you. It's been a pleasure having you. Ready to face inflation. Economy is ready to face inflation. I hope you are ready with all your weapons in place. Victoria says, thank you, Delapo. Uji says, thank you. Boss lady, thank you. So thank you, everyone. I'm sure we've had value for the 1 hour that we've spent, and for those of us that joined from 7:30 when the room was open, I'm sure that you've had value, and just like Akunubi, you are ready to face inflation. Thank you once again. Thank you, Dolapo and Atinuke.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you. Okay, so any parting words?
I'll say with anything when starting out, just pick 1 or 2 things that you can start with at a time and then kind of build on it as you go along. Don't try and do everything at the same time, really, because then it can become very overwhelming. So pick 1 or 2 things that you know that, okay, fine, I can really start with. And then after that, you can build up on the rest, basically.
So my parting word is for you to know that inflation has come to stay. Hopefully it will go very soon, and just work around it. You know, there's no need bickering. It's for us to know what to do in order to beat the inflation, and some information I've been giving to us tonight. So please, you know, just work your way around it, and I'm sure we'll all get out of it very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining. So we'll do this again on Zoom in 2 weeks' time. However, in the meantime, we have a Spaces conversation on Twitter tomorrow, 7 p.m. We'll be taking another dimension to the conversation, and I look forward to having everyone join us again on Twitter tomorrow, and also on Zoom again in 2 weeks' time. The recording would be shared on our YouTube page, and you can go back to listen in. We also have past sessions already up there for you to go back and, you know, you can always refresh your memory from time to time. So thank you once again.
And just to mention, very great moderation. Thank you so much for your moderation. Really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you, Atinike. Okay. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Have a lovely evening, everyone.